Well, Luke, how was selection this week? Was it a tough one? Any tough calls to make?
Oh, it's not done yet. Today's our main session, so that's the difficulty with having to name your team so far out from a Sunday game. So, look, I mean, we had some good momentum going into our first game against the Demons, and we were pretty buoyant around our chances. So it was a little bit of a surprise, some of the fatigue in the game. The conditions were challenging, but ultimately, after a pretty good start to the game, some of the things that took their toll, sort of came out of the blue. So it's important that we come back to the things we've worked on, the things that looked pretty healthy going into that game, and make sure we do it better this week in round two. So as you can see, we've named 8 on the interchange bench as you do, and what that looks like at the end of today. And when we finalise our team, it could be a little bit different depending on how we get through this session.
Jack McCrae wasn't one of those 8. The reason for that, and is he still in the frame with training today at all?
Yeah, well, I answered a question similar to that, I suppose, post-game around Jack's circumstances with missing some training, missing some match practice. We're setting him up to succeed against some of the better midfields. We feel like Gold Coast group are, one of the best groups in the competition at the moment, and Jack's almost there. Some encouraging signs again last week. So he can't be subbed. He's got to play a full game, so he'll most likely play on Sunday against GWS in the twos.
Is it just miles in the leagues for him? Luke, is that all it is for Jack?
Look, Jack understands, and so does our whole group, that now we're on a period of evolution, significant evolution again. When you consider coming off 22 straight out in elimination final last year, finishing 9th, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and thinking you're going to get a different result. And so some of the young guys who are coming through in Riley Sanders and Harvey Gallagher, that affects selection to a degree. We've got to expose these guys to the level. We think they're going to be really good, important players for the club. So some of the lads who are a little bit behind, or who maybe haven't been as prolific as some of the younger guys during pre-season, have found themselves just out of the team, like Jack and obviously CD as a sub last week. And now that challenges all of our group to emerge and come up to the standards that they're setting for each other. And we've got no doubt that Jack will play a lot of AFL footy this year, and it could be next week, but we'll wait and see.
In that spirit, if you ask Jack to evolve in any way, is there something different?
I think we've talked enough about Jack. I mean, his circumstances are pretty clear, and as I just said, he'll play a lot of senior footy, but it's important that for us, we're always have got an objective to qualify for a final series. That's number one, and finish as high as we can. And I've never stood here and predicted any pain or teething problems along the way. It didn't quite work out on the weekend, but it wasn't because of team selection. It was because we played a pretty good Melbourne side who, over the course of the game, just did more than us. And the disappointing thing for us was the end of the game and the scoreline blowing out. So, as I said, Jack will make his way into the team at some point, but we're going to pick a really strong side this week to play the Gold Coast Suns, and we'll go to Ballarat expecting a much better performance than we got at the MCG.
What has been your focus this week on the back of that loss?
Yeah, well, it's the salient question, isn't it? When you haven't got the energy in the game, I suppose through the team to take care of the core aspects that will make you, one of the better sides. And we went from being the number one pressure side after the community series in that round to being 17th. Now that just tells you that we weren't good enough around the core aspect of putting pressure on the opposition and dealing with it ourselves. So we'll get that right and closer to where we need it to be, and a lot of tentacles will come from that. And then you can go into the phases and what broke down, but we're sure that we'll play together in the main other phases better than we did last week.
Defensively, obviously got a couple of your support stocks for Liam Jones still coming back from some injuries, so it's been asking a lot of Buko, and he playing maybe a bit taller than he has to. Obviously it's a similar looking backline at this stage this week, but with a couple of big guys with the Suns as well too. How do you help support him as that second support to Jonesy?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? We've got Buko, who's probably an undersized key defender with Jonesy, and probably coming up against an outfit that's reasonably tall, and picking their new recruit, their early third round pick. He's a robust, tall lad as well. So it'd be interesting to see whether he's just coming in for roses or one of the other bigger guys go out at the end of the day. So I think both clubs are thinking, okay, we seem a bit undersized in our back end. As you mentioned, James O'Donnell's got another week from concussion so he won't play this week. We've got Ryan Gardner out, Alex Keith's just returning and building up again, and Jed Buslinger, who's not quite ready for AFL footy yet. So we need, mentioning that pressure factor, we need that around the footy for our backline to really function to the best of their ability. And Buku does that pretty well. When there's no pressure on the ball, it makes it a lot more difficult for him. So he had some really good moments last week, but there's a lot of growth left in him.
How do you see Sam Darcy? Is he in the mix to play? And if so, how do you then juggle what you do with your big and tall, your Lob and Naughton, and how do you see that balance?
Yeah, well, Sam will play this week, and I think he's much better equipped and ready to play at the level than he ever has been. He's had a pretty strong pre-season, got through a hell of a lot of work, and he spent a lot of time in the ruck over the pre-season, so he's competed against Tim and Lobby and young Lockie Smith, and there was a game that we played in Maroochydore where he rucked the whole game, and we've tried to prepare him for the rigours of the game at this level, and he'll spend some minutes in the ruck, but he'll obviously play forward for a fair chunk of the game. And I suppose with Sam too, he's got that history where he has played as a key defender. So if we get to the point where we feel like we need help or we're unlucky with injury or something, then Sam's capable of swinging and covering for us back there. But we've got to get him going and support him through really, hopefully, a period of time where he can get a really good look at it, and which is exciting for our fans, and to see Sam. There's a brilliance in him as a young player, and we'd love to see some of that. But there's no doubt that the game's going to throw him some challenges, and he'll deal with it pretty well. He's a fierce competitor.
Is that squeeze Rory?
We'll wait to see how we get through today. We don't want Lobby to go out of the side, but we can't fit all the talls in. It means something's got to give with the small to mediums, and we're probably not prepared to do that. So I can't emphatically say how the team's going to finish up quite right at this point in time.
Jamara reports he's agreed to re-sign, which must be a great boost for yourself and the culture around him. You've always got a couple of other guys to work through contract-wise, but what does that mean for the group and your future plans, moving forward?
Yeah, the positive vibrations from that news are important. I always rather have some ink on the A4, but his growth over the last few years from a young key forward and how he started, and to think that he's making an impression on the competition. He's still really relatively young in his position, and he openly says that he loves the club. He's grateful for all the work that Dave Newton did with him through the academy and his time at Scotch College and the importance of the academia there, but also settling him in Melbourne and getting him used to being away from Framlingham. And he's an outstanding young character, and we hope that whatever the length of contract it is, we hope that he's with us for his whole career. So it's a great fill-up for us once it's totally done, but good signs.
Look, Aaron Naughton, if I could ask about him, is there a chance he could go back, or are you quite happy with him staying forward?
Yeah, well, I know it's interesting. I think the commentary around that, it's almost like we forget that he's been our most prolific key forward, and I'm not sure you're aware, but as a junior, he was a forward. He became a key back sort of towards his draft year, so he's used to playing as a forward and helps others play extremely well. He wasn't at the top of his game last week, and he's one of those lads who needs to be uncompromised in and unrestricted in what he's doing. So there's something that happened earlier in the game that just sort of pulled him back a little bit, and as the game went on, he's had some really big last quarters for us, Aaron, in big games, and you hold on to the hope that might come out, on a big game against Melbourne at the G, and it didn't happen. And I don't, in hindsight now, we know he wasn't at the peak of his athletic power. So he'll train today and he'll get through the session and prepare himself well. But it's unlikely that he'll go back. Yeah, we don't pick the side. I just mentioned Sam and the prospect of him doing it. If we need someone to swing, it'll likely be Sam before Aaron.
Going away to Ballarat, taking an opposition side there, the boys still get a bit excited about that. It's obviously a few years into playing down there now, but is there still a bit of energy around going down there?
Yeah, I mean, when we look at it as a home ground advantage, basically. Everyone loves to play at Marvel Stadium. It's indoor. If you're coming from interstate, you know what you're going to get. There's a comfort level that's and it can only fit a certain capacity. Yet, when we play in Ballarat, I'm not sure whoever we play is that excited about playing through the Western Corridor. And we love the community down there. They've really embraced us, and we love the support that we get from them. And when you consider all the challenges and the trauma that's happened over the recent times in Ballarat, and the community and what they've had to face and how they've needed to band together, looking forward to going down there tomorrow and then preparing well for Sunday's game and hopefully putting on a really strong showing and put a bit of spring in their step, for everyone in Ballarat who supports us. And so we're looking forward to our first game down there on Sunday.
Will you do anything tomorrow then, Bevo, just with that in mind around the community? Given what has happened there, will you do anything sort of with your fans and get around town?
Oh, it's difficult, Theo, to change a normal lead-up and preparation, especially for the players. Take them out of their usual timeline and what you expose them to. So nothing formal, from a player participation perspective, but you might have got wind of the ASICs and Western Bulldogs' commitment to supplying, I think, 100,000 pairs of boots to kids under 14 who are playing in the competitions through that region. I think that's just an outstanding initiative for the families to think that they don't have to buy their kids boots for a start, but I've got the ASICs on and they're pretty bloody comfortable and they're great footy boots. So I think that's, as I said, a brilliant initiative, and we just need to keep trying to do things like that to support people, not only just in our local region, but definitely in the regional centres. Thanks, everyone.